All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paul Harrell program. We very much appreciate you being with us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do all the stuff that you're supposed to do on the different platforms we're currently broadcasting on. What a weekend it was. Not only did we have, and this is a tertiary story at this point, but winter weather just hammering the South and Mid-South, and portions of the country are without power because of the freezing rain. We also had things pop off in Minnesota in a way nobody wants to see, and yet here we are. There's a ton of questions now in the wake of the death of Mr. Preddy, and we're going to talk about that and all of the implications, but mainly my position is the deportations must continue, and this is no time to stop enforcing federal immigration law, even as messy as the situation may seem. But I will remind you, we still haven't seen any of the body cam footage, and until, just like in anything, until you see the body cam footage, it's going to be very difficult to actually come to a hard conclusion on this, other than the fact that a man's life is lost, and of course that is tragic. However, we're going to look into the Signal chat, and the latest, the real Signal gate, is that essentially a bunch of communist revolutionaries have been finding ways, strategizing ways to thwart ICE, dox ICE. We even have left-wing radicals biting their fingers off at this point. Really terrible things. And now the government of Minnesota is now implicated, and essentially, if this is true, apparently facilitating domestic terrorism in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're going to talk about this much, much more. My co-host Rob Spencer is with us. The show starts right now.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, folks, sorry. I was talking with Rob here about, it looks like one of our show titles is wrong on some of the platforms we're on, but it's right on some of the others. So
yeah. So if you're watching us on X America News, we are not talking about the anti-Christian church rioter, Nekemia Levy Armstrong, being arrested. We talked about that last week.
yes, on Thursday.
So it was just a holdover there from our technical department. But regardless, suffice it to say, we are going to be talking about what occurred over the weekend. And, you know, this it's one of those things where we probably, had we not had some just massive snowstorm, it could have been another one where, like, hey, let's meet at the studio and do an emergency show, because it was the news was just happening so fast. And I guess it was Saturday that this happened, correct? It was Saturday?
Yes, it seems like I woke up Saturday morning and this was this was everywhere.
Right. Folks, if you're in the part of the United States that has been, just dealing with this weather, you understand that, you kind of forget what day it is, because you're shut in and there's been so much snow. So anyway, we're going to go over all of the angles of all of this stuff. And I mean, this could be the calming, right before this thing gets calm, because right before we went on the air, we've heard some reports that Border Patrol, or at least part of Border Patrol, is going to be pulled out of Minnesota. So the ones there rioting, or in cases where it's not a riot, the ones that are protesting, they're going to look at this as a victory, although a bittersweet victory, for the simple fact that 2 people are dead.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think that it's interesting, because you've got Tom Homan. Donald Trump is sending Tom Homan to Minneapolis. Some people have been critical that he's not been more involved in this situation in the first place. A lot of people don't know. I didn't know until you told me that it was the Border Patrol that was involved in the death of Petty here.
When you think of Border Patrol and you think of ICE, it gets a little the lines get a little bit skewed, but they are 2 separate departments.
Right. So it was not ICE. It was the Border Patrol that's there to protect the ICE operations, presumably. And so anyway, at this point, there's when you mention the different angles, let's just start there. I'm not talking about the different angles of the video, because there are a lot of the videos. I don't have any of those pulled up, to analyze it here and there, because to me, it's still unclear exactly what happened, other than the fact I do believe he was disarmed, right? The predominant theory is he was carrying a gun. It was open carrying a gun. You can do that in Minnesota. He allegedly had a permit to do this thing, although the wisdom of all of this obviously has to be a part of the conversation. But from what I can tell, at least right now, we haven't seen all the body cam footage, but from what I can tell, I think when he was disarmed, the gun that was disarmed went off accidentally, and that's what initiated the shooting. So we're going to find out eventually. But in my opinion, and let me just say this at the forefront, I think that this was always going to happen. Something like this was always going to happen. And what do I mean by that? Well, one of the reasons I voted for Donald Trump is because I wanted him to do the mass deportations. We are not doing them near the level of what they need to be done, but that's what I wanted. I wanted blue cities to no longer be sanctuary cities. This is what I wanted. This is what I voted for. And in voting for him, I know what the radical left is like. You know what the radical left is like. And I assumed, now many people didn't. There are many people on the right now that don't have the stomach for this. They want closed borders. They want deportations. Well, what in the world did you think was going to happen? Something like this was always inevitably going to happen. And I think there's a schism being exposed for the people who have different mindsets about what is necessary. Obviously, I don't want anyone to die. But if you've had 50 years of a planned, demographic demise of this country, drastically altering the demographics of this country, making us, more and more at odds with one another, because the Somali fraud is a perfect example. While we have Somali immigrants here that are living better lives than the people that were born here because the government's giving them handouts, and not just handouts, but generational wealth. If you were going to reverse that and actually restore law and order, obviously something like this, it's very likely something like this was always going to happen. And that's before you even get into the signal gate. So I can say that I can say when I cast my vote for Trump, assuming he was going to actually try to do what he is doing now, and I don't think he's doing as much as he should, I always assumed that this was going to be a possibility, a likely scenario if you're actually going to secure America's blue cities.
Well, there's so many people out there that are posting like, is this what you voted for? Is this what you voted for? And there are some people that are conservatives that are coming out today and saying, or over the last couple of days, and just saying, I voted for Trump and I did not vote for this. And I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. There are people who vote for Democrats who are not pro-choice, but they just agree with the Democrats on just about everything else. And, there are pro-choice Republicans, right? And so you don't have to align with everything that Donald Trump has done. But to say that you didn't think he was going to do this, he ran on it. He ran on it all three times he ran on it, especially the first and the third time he ran. He ran on securing the border and mass deportations. And people would ask him, what are you talking about? Just rounding people up off the streets? And he's like, yeah. And that's what he's doing. I'm reminded of something, Paul. And there are going to be some conservatives, as you and I have shared, we have a little bit of a difference of opinion on some of this immigration stuff. But I have heard of no one being deported right now that I would disagree with. I mean, you're talking about the worst of the worst. Now, are there some that are just a gardener who hasn't committed a crime, who just happened to be with somebody, and they were deported? We could go through all of that if you wanted to, but it doesn't change the fact that if you are aligning with Trump not enforcing this stuff, then you are aligning against the law. And I don't see how you can have the moral high ground there when you are simply saying, we understand that this is a law, we just simply don't want anybody to follow it. And that's exactly what sanctuary cities are, okay? But I'm reminded of a story, Paul, and this happened several years ago, 7, 8 years ago maybe, I don't know exactly, but my friend, who is a former police chief here locally, he had posted and showed the video about it. Now, it had nothing to do with him whatsoever, but it was just about a police officer, and it was a video. It was like someone's camera phone, and there was a disruptive, unruly person, and she was a young lady in a high school class. Well, the school resource officer was called down there, and this student started filming. A different student started filming, and that's the one that we all saw. And she was directly defiant and not following any orders. He told her, "Come on, get your stuff, come with me," all that stuff. "I'm not going anywhere." Like, she was very, very defiant. So his option is to just not enforce the policy there that she's got to go down to the principal, or he has to go and do what he's got to do. And he goes over there, and instead of she's already directly defiant. So he didn't go over there and gently say, "Let's go," kind of thing. He went over there and manhandled her. Okay? Now, there's a lot of people that looked at this was too much because it was a big burly guy and a skinny young girl. This is too much. Now back to my friend who's the police chief. He posted it and he said, "Folks, enforcement ain't always pretty. It ain't always pretty." And pardon the pun here, with this guy who was disrupting ICE and Border Patrol enforcement. He was disrupting law enforcement. Tim Walz can sit here and say all that he wants to, that they're not law enforcement. They are agents for the federal government who are enforcing the law. How are they not law enforcement? They go through the same training here. And Tim Walz wants to try to do that, to villainize them, to make them seem like they're just, as he said, the Gestapo here. But the bottom line is, folks, we voted for this, and if you don't have the stomach for it, it's unfortunate. And I don't agree with everything. But at the bottom line is, enforcement ain't always pretty.
I totally agree with you there. And I've been perusing a lot of the law enforcement responses to this, how so many people are like, "I cannot believe that happened the way it did." It's just, and yet there's so many people not willing to put themselves in the shoes of the law enforcement officer. Yeah. And there's a loss of life here, so that's understandable.
Well, the law enforcement doesn't get to slow it down.
No.
We're all watching this video, and it's getting to slow it down.
Yeah.
Law enforcement they don't have
Literally,
that.
they have seconds, they have milliseconds,
Sure.
smaller than that even, to actually figure out what's going on. And honestly, I do think what happened was, I think that there was a gunshot fired first, but I think I think the gun went off. And we've got a video of this exact model doing just that. Mm-hmm. If the trigger is, apparently this particular model of firearm, if the trigger is slightly engaged, just a little bit, grabbing the tip of the gun, grabbing the slide on top, can make the gun go off.
Yeah, and we've got a video of it.
The whole thing is, again, it's almost like because what was happening on video there, and we see the results. There is no responsibility, at least from the left and maybe some on the right. There's so many people that don't want to put any responsibility on Preddy.
Yeah.
Right? They don't. The fact that he did go to a, quote, protest, okay, mm-hmm. Goes to a, quote, protest. This is what we're supposed to believe. Goes to a protest, goes armed, and is open carrying, which is just not a wise thing to do. May very well be your right to do it. And there's tons of stuff that's my right to do, but probably wouldn't do that. And then he did lay hands on the federal officers. Then he did resist arrest, and we can talk about what happened before that. And then there were other people involved, and a woman that was pushed to the ground by the officers or whatever. But I mean, I can't imagine a world where I would get in any sort of physical confrontation with a law enforcement officer while I was open carrying, and not expect something really, really bad to happen.
Right. I agree with you completely. Kash Patel incorrectly went on a show and said that you cannot bring a firearm to a protest. And I believe, and I did a little bit of research, the state of Minnesota has no law that says that you cannot. Now, you cannot have a firearm in the commission of a crime, mm-hmm. which interfering with law enforcement is a crime. You can be arrested for that. So someone could say, hey, this is, if he's going to get charged, had this not happened, had this shooting not happened, and he just interfered with law enforcement and was arrested, he was going to get charged with a crime, and it was going to have an enhancement
because he was
carrying
armed.
that.
Yep, you're exactly right.
Right, and then you've got also this, places like the state of California who has banned, they've banned you from carrying a firearm to a protest because they consider it a, quote, sensitive area, right? And so, again, I found all this in the research. If I'm correct about all of that, like you can attend a anti-ICE demonstration and carry a firearm in the state of California. And I will rarely ever agree with the state of California on something, but it makes a lot of sense because are those things peaceful? Are they calm? No way. And we can look at all the videos and we can slow down and say, this happened. He did not do that. He did not do this. He was not da-da-da-da-da. He was not. One thing I can tell you he was not doing, and that was laying down on the ground and submitting to his arrest. He fought it, screamed, somebody save my life. If they take me, they're going to kill me, which is completely irrational. In just that, like that he's going to be hauled off and killed.
Wait, he said that.
Yeah, he was yelling. So there's another video where he was yelling all of this stuff. And he's like, I need someone to step in and save my life. And I'm not trying to spit on the man's grave, but I was like, the power to save your life, sir, is in your hands.
Yep.
And it's not curled up in a ball while the police are trying to arrest you.
While you are armed.
Correct. So the bottom line is there's a series of things, had they not happened, that he would be alive.
So, I mean, I'm sorry, you have to, the rhetoric here, and now we know, let's just go ahead and throw this up here. So there's one report over on the Inside Wire that according to Cam Higbee, revealing that Alex Pretty was part of the anti-ICE signal group. So there's one report. This is a huge deal. And whether he was directly associated with it, he was clearly there on a mission like all of these other, I'm calling them insurgents. There is now an organized insurgency in the state of Minnesota or the city of Minneapolis. And thanks to independent journalist Cam Higbee, he was able to somehow infiltrate the Signal group chat here. For those of you that don't know, Signal is an app on your phone. It's supposed to be secure. Obviously, it's not. Tucker Carlson proved that when the NSA was spying on his Signal chats. But anyway, it's an app it is encrypted or whatever. And he writes, I have infiltrated organizational signal groups all around Minneapolis with the sole intention of tracking down federal agents and impeding and assaulting and obstructing them. Buckle up, all will be revealed. Each area of the city has a signal or several signals. Let's start with the screen recording. So you can just see here, this is all of the signal group that he infiltrated here. And so people have now, it's also been made public, where you can go and you can read all of the messages. They are very meticulous here, and a lot of people think they have help from intelligence services. A lot of people. There's even some reports that there are officials from Canada involved in this as well, trying to obstruct ICE. It's almost like the entire Democrat playbook / scam is like the focal point of it is the state of Minnesota, or certainly the playbook for these other blue states as well. And so, if in fact it is true that Alex Pretty was also a part of this anti-ICE signal group, the guy was there for a reason. And it just shows you that they haven't, if that's true, they haven't learned their lesson from Renee Good. Renee Good was in the car. Her significant other, her wife, was outside. They were recording for the clicks. Let's be real here. They're there as observers, but they're there to document aggressive behavior, in what they can then send to their left-wing friends to become more and more outraged to get this thing to swell. Renee Good messed around, and she found out. And this guy did the same thing. Whether we want to Monday morning quarterback what the police did or not, again, it's tragic that he lost his life, but I don't know how. I don't think there's a way to enforce immigration law with the left behaving the way they are without stuff like this happening. We are in more of a war than people want to admit. It is very much like the Civil War. We have the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, the Democrat Attorney General Keith Ellison of Minnesota going to the mic and saying that the federal government is not respecting states' rights. And we have that video. It's insane to me that the tables have turned the way they are.
It's gaslighting. It's absolute gaslighting, because you're saying that in response to the federal government trying to enforce federal laws and you not working with the federal government, specifically working against the federal government. And then you have the unmitigated gall to say that you're not the federal government's not respecting states' rights. Sir, maybe you need to go back to law school, but you need to know that federal law supersedes states' laws. That's
what the Civil War was fought over.
Exactly.
I may not like that, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. That's jurisprudence is well beyond that.
Well, in this instance, it's probably a good thing, because when you have very leftist states, now Minnesota is more of a 60-40 state. Can you imagine being one of those 40% Republicans or conservatives there, where it's like, man, I am unrepresented in this state because the leadership is just lunacy in their methods. But you've got some really leftist states. You've got the Vermonts of the world. You've got the Washington State, Oregon, places like that, where the fact that the federal government steps in is probably going to be the best thing possible, because it's probably going to save that state from itself. Because look at what was happening in Minnesota that state was allowing with this fraud. I would imagine that happens in red states as well. As I shared with you a couple of weeks ago, Mississippi apparently is under investigation. But the difference there is that Mississippi is working with the federal government to resolve that fraud. So fraud can happen anywhere. Minnesota is working against the federal government, and their attorney general had the unmitigated gall to come out and say that the federal government's not respecting states' rights. Sir, it's the other way around.
Yeah, let's play exactly. I think I misspoke when I said states' rights. I think he said state prerogatives, but it's the same deal. So I got this from Derek Evans. It's a report on how a federal judge has blocked the federal government from destroying or altering evidence in the fatal shooting of Alex Preddy. Right? Okay. So it's this is the federal judge has done this to to try to seed the narrative that the government's going to try to cover this up. Now, I will say this: what Kash Patel said was wrong. I think what Kristi Noem said was wrong at the outset about this guy was there to kill federal agents. Now, maybe they have the signal chatting. Yeah. Maybe they know something we don't know.
Maybe.
But it's not a good. It was not.
I rolled my eyes when she said that.
It was not a good look. I think, according to some reports, Trump is not happy with the way DHS handled this, and I think that's why Tom Homan, who's been sidelined from this, is now going in there. But this was the clip from Ellison. It's a portion of a Fox News clip. Listen to this.
A federal judge has ruled the Trump administration cannot destroy any evidence from its investigation into Preddy's shooting death on Saturday. There's a hearing today where the Trump-appointed judge may extend the temporary restraining order. Here is Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison.
It is in the DNA of American history that the federal government cannot trample over the prerogatives of the state. And that is exactly what is happening here, and that is exactly why we're going to court.
Sir, you're an attorney. That's like day one of law school, sir.
It kind of was in our DNA before Abraham Lincoln. So,
yeah.
And I know this is over Minnesota wanting to investigate and not the feds to investigate themselves. I know that's what it is. But it is all connected with this whole, right. You guys are sanctuary state. You're sanctuary city. You don't want to follow the law. You're resisting the federal government. And you don't have a right to do that. You have a right to go vote. You have a right to try to win elections, but then you lost elections. So, what people on the streets of Minneapolis are calling a tyranny is just the consequences of an election. We voted for a guy to reverse a 50 to 70-year policy that's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. You guys have used your state laws to give them millions and billions of dollars in generational wealth to create future voters. And And, Trump is trying to do what he said he was going to do. And again, I knew it would get messy. I knew it would.
I hope that the messiness doesn't get worse. I mean, I hope that the enforcement goes, but I mean, if you don't like the laws, then vote and change the laws. But so I hope that it doesn't get messier, because all I can think about are the midterms. Right, we're about to have a powder keg this week when they're voting to extend this funding, and you've got all of these people that are coming out there 100% saying that they're not going to do it if there is funding in there for DHS and ICE and all of that. And you're just like, okay, we've got a razor thin majority in both House and the Senate there. How much damage is going to be done? Are they going to shut the government down again? Also, Trump saying that he is, as of February 1st, not going to send any funds to a state that has a sanctuary city in it. That's a lot of states right now, folks.
Yep.
I mean, there's a ton of them that have that. So now we've got this powder keg. In addition to all of that, we're seeing, will this economy improve? Will the inflation go down in 2026? Will things get cheaper, interest rates, all of that stuff happen. So there's a lot of pressure on this year, and we're not starting it off so great, because if we're thinking about good time vibes and all of that leading into the midterms, we're going to need that. The Republicans are going to need some momentum. And I think that the only way that they get anything accomplished this year is if they do something which you and I both agree they're not going to do, and that's nuke the filibuster.
Yeah, I think it's so sad, actually. I'm just sitting here listening to you, and I'm thinking about how, I want Pam Bondi to do more. We're going to talk about her in a minute. I want more arrests. I want, Kash Patel is, now that this Signal chat is leaked, he's opened an investigation. And I'm like, okay, great. We have all these communist revolutionaries coordinating, doxing ICE agents, showing up, interfering with federal. And it took an independent journalist to figure this out. And I'm like, why isn't the FBI already, why?
Right.
And maybe they do. Maybe they already have it and that we're sitting on it. But it's just so discouraging. I'm just so sick and tired of it. And the status quo is essentially this right now. Congress refuses to pass anything that actually codifies the president's agenda. They won't get rid of the filibuster. And so what are the midterms actually about for us? The midterms are about, the Republican messages, vote for Republicans so that that Trump doesn't get impeached. That's the only message. It's not vote for Republicans so they continue the agenda or actually codify the agenda. It's just, Trump's going to get impeached if we don't vote for Republicans. And if they somehow keep the House, it's just going to be, nothing, just more executive orders, and then the next president gets in there and undoes everything. I mean, it's so frustrating.
So you would have to have, if I'm correct, even if they got rid of the filibuster, you still have to have 60 senators that would vote to impeach Trump, right? If I'm just going,
I believe so. Yeah.
If you say you're in 2027 and the Democrats have the House and the Senate, and they're crazy in the House, they're going to do it. They're going to pass it in the House. They're going to impeach him. Well, then it's got to go up to the Senate. So no matter what, if that filibuster is not there, I believe the filibuster is only about breaking cloture, which allows a bill to go to the floor. I don't think it has anything to do with impeachment. As far as I remember, impeachment is in the Constitution in terms of
solid.
So, okay. Well, anyway, at least that is not at danger by nuking the filibuster. But I agree with you, Paul. Every single one of his executive orders should be put into a bill and run through and get rid of that filibuster, because it creates this massive logjam. You know how you correct that stuff if you're in the minority party? Rally up votes, get people to come to your side, and therefore you don't have to worry about the minority party whenever you're in there. This filibuster thing is not in the
filibuster's not in the Constitution.
It's not in the Constitution, especially the way that it's being utilized here. So there I believe that isn't there the old school filibuster that you can keep something from going to the floor, refusing to vote on it by, what was the the movie.
Oh yeah,
you
the
know,
old school where you
the old school standing there for
you can just talk
2 days.
forever. You have unlimited debate,
Right,
basically.
wearing your adult diapers and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. Right?
Yeah, we talked about
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
But 2026 could be massive if they would actually govern. But I go back to what I said last week, Paul. I believe that that there is a positive aspect of being in the minority party. That's how you can dredge up money. That's how you rile up your base. We got to stop this. Put us in there and we'll stop this. No, you won't.
I think it's not going to work this time. I think if the Republicans lose control, I just, even with Fox News and everything else, I just think they're going to find that they are going to be totally ineffective at riling people up. I think people realize that if you can elect a guy, and this is kind of on the Trump administration too, like if you elect Trump, against all these odds and getting shot in the ear and everything else, and then James Comey's still walking around a free man, I just
And the big beautiful bill is all you've passed.
yeah, you're
Right.
This is why when the mayor of Fairfield Bay, Seth Connell, was on our show last week, he was like, according to Gallup, now the younger voters, 50% of them now are just saying that they don't identify with either party.
Yeah.
And it's because they're let down.
Well, the Republicans, blow a lot of smoke, and the Democrats are crazy. So why would I want to be a part of either one of those parties, right?
This is the lesser of two evils. I've been happy to vote for the lesser of two evils, but you're getting to a point where people just think we're slaves because it doesn't matter.
Well, you just don't know. I mean, I go back to Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck voted for Hillary Clinton, in 2016. He did this whole thing where he came out.
I knew he was anti-Trump. I didn't know he voted for Hillary.
But in his defense, like, nobody knew what he would do, and he had this whole show about how he labored over it. He was in tears, laboring over it as a conservative, So, but it was a different time, because if you came out and said that you supported Trump back then, I keep getting calls from Washington D.C. I'm hoping that's not a bad sign for us.
Maybe it's a good sign. Is it 202?
202
area
That's
code?
what I got a while ago, and then another one is here, but it says it's Washington D.C. So I don't know who is trying to call me from D.C. Maybe it's the president. Who knows, right? Maybe I got his personal cell phone.
Rob, quit. We're gonna get through it. I'm terrible.
Well,
I have a
that's the
terrible
worst.
Trump impression.
That's the worst Trump impression I've ever heard. But let me end my rant here by just saying that it is going to be the biggest missed opportunity, I believe, in political history, if you don't codify all of these executive orders where he fixed the massive problems that have happened over the last 4 years leading up to the election of 2024. If you don't do that, if you don't pass this stuff, then it's going to be the biggest failure. Like, it's a waste of Donald Trump's last
It
term.
also just invites. I mean, look, Congress is essentially useless. There's going to be people in 10, 20 years. Why do we even have a Congress? The judiciary, useless, corrupt, double standards.
Yeah.
The federal judges, they refuse to. There's now all these left wings like the Signal Gate. I've got a post about how there's jury nullification instructions going out to all of the major cities. They're organizing so that if you get called for a grand jury, which, by the way, I'm a fan of jury nullification. I think it's good.
Sure.
But now it's organized out there. And people are, I think it's good sometimes, I guess. I think it's terrible if you're going to let deep state criminals or people that have assaulted law enforcement officers off because of jury nullification. Mm-hmm. So you're getting to a point where, I'm just, the Zoomer generation up and coming is not going to be beholden to your constitutional republic the way that we are now.
Somebody might say, Paul, that we're talking out of both sides of our mouth when we say that we want these laws enforced and that we shouldn't just let them go. If you don't like that, you should change the law. But it also, and then we would want that, but then we would also be in favor of jury nullification, but which those are counterintuitive in terms of, like, okay, do you want the law enforced or not? But I'm thinking of it in terms of this Aaron Spencer stuff that we're seeing right now, and he just had a huge win last week. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's a man who tracked down a guy that had sexually assaulted his 13, 14-year-old daughter, and he was a 60-something-year-old guy. He was a predator. He's a manipulator. He was able to manipulate this young lady, and she snuck out of her house.
He was let out on bail, though, by the judge. That is now. Well, you go ahead.
Correct. Yeah, and we could go through all of that stuff, but the Arkansas Supreme Court removed that judge from this case. That's how bad this judge was. So when you look at it, when you talk about jury nullification, they're only as good as the information that they've gotten. And Aaron Spencer here in Arkansas, look it up, folks, if you want to go down a rabbit hole here.
He's running for sheriff.
Running for sheriff. It's going to be oh my gosh, this could be a biggest story of the year here in Arkansas. But anyway, so if you want to look at a jury nullification, okay, should he have killed that guy? He says that he had no other choice. He saw something in this guy's hand, and it was 2:00 in the morning and all of that stuff.
But he had just kidnapped his daughter.
So we all wonder why he was charged in the first place. Well, then what if you have a judge who is only allowing certain information to come in when you're a juror and this jury pool is totally tainted, and you're a juror and you're like, wait a minute, I read this. I read about this. I read the police reports. This is not correct, and and the judge is not allowing all of that stuff in. Yeah. Jury nullification,
exactly.
Folks.
That's actually a great point, but it also kind of ties into what we're seeing in Minneapolis and not having the stomach for it. This judge, this female judge, right, was clearly biased against Aaron Spencer. I think that's obvious with her gag order, and the Supreme Court's already had to step in once. And I think we're in a world where there's the older generation that's in power right now, and the idea that a father would protect his daughter and just pew a pedophile and just kind of end the debate is very triggering to some people who are in positions of power. Right?
Well, I mean, when you've got states like Virginia who just took over, and Virginia, you have no one to blame but yourself there. One of the first bills that they went, it was to get rid of mandatory minimums for rapists and murderers. What? And child molesters.
Insane.
You're like, what?
Insane.
What is wrong? Why? You've got this on the books. And you're like, well, these things are racist and they're this. And I'm like, black. Just because you're black doesn't mean you're a pedophile.
Yep.
There are tons of pedophiles who aren't black. As a matter of fact, I would imagine by the numbers, you're going to be more white people that are these pedophiles just because there are more white people in the United States.
So they're so deranged and they're worshiping the race religion that they're willing to let people be raped. I mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean,
it's the same.
What other conclusion? We could say, well, they're just deranged or whatever, but the practical application is their decisions mean they're going to encourage more rapes because you get less jail time. And so those people hate you, and they hate your kids, and they hate your way of life, and they actually think they would prefer you to suffer horrific crimes so that they can sleep good at night and feel like they're not racists.
If you are a person and you rape an 8-year-old child, if you're an adult and you rape an 8-year-old child, lesser sentences is not even in my mind.
No, of course. It's a death penalty.
I'm thinking about the public hangings. And a lot of folks have said this over the years, that if you would bring back public hangings, about half of this stuff would go away.
Overnight. And, instead of... Honestly, I also think, and people are going to maybe think this is crazy, but I think bringing the public stocks back, instead of going to the county jail where you're getting three meals a day or whatever, you know what might alter your behavior? Being put in stocks for 6 hours in a day.
Yeah, hard labor.
Literally, whatever the...
Oh, wait a minute. I was thinking like the chain gang.
Well, you could do that too, but I just mean like, here, we're going to put this guy in, what is a state-sanctioned humiliation ritual, and we're going to tell people what he did.
Yeah,
and
have a big banner.
I just got a feeling after 12 hours in that, you're not going to do what you did again.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about it, but You
Yeah.
know, that people are going to say that's cruel and unusual, and it's like, well, are you going to? I don't know. We actually have to take a quick break.
We could go down that rabbit hole for a
we
long
really
time.
could. We have to take a minute and 20-second break. When we come back, the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan,
Loon.
has now been implicated in the Signal group chats. Well, apparently she's been implicated. Let me say, it's an alleged offense that she, the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, was an administrator called Flan Southside, that her username allegedly was Flan Southside, in the Signal group chats, which were coordinating terrorist activity against the federal government. If this is true, it goes all the way up to the Minnesota state government. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute.
I'm Brian Norris, retired Army First Sergeant, husband to Kelly, father of 3 amazing girls, and a lifelong Arkansan who puts faith, family, and fair elections first. When Independence County demanded real election transparency, I led the charge, petitioning voters and winning at the Arkansas Supreme Court. Now, Little Rock bureaucrats are punishing counties like Searcy for putting voters first. That's not real conservatism. It's big government overreach in disguise. That's why Trump allies like General Michael Flynn, Mike Lindell, Justice Michael Gableman, Colonel Conrad Reynolds, Senator Wendy Rogers, and Senator Mark Fincham back me. Together, we'll secure Arkansas's elections and inspire the nation. As Secretary of State, I'll implement President Trump's executive order, verify citizenship, replace hackable voting computers, and build trust with verifiable paper ballots. I'll cut red tape for businesses, harness our natural gas and lithium boom, and attract tech jobs to grow Arkansas strong. This is our fight, our future. Join us.
Paid for by Norris for Arkansas.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. And continuing with our coverage, we were just telling you about Minnesota and the lieutenant governor there. As part of this Signalgate controversy, we have this tweet from Sir Washington. Signalgate explodes. Minnesota Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan allegedly, we want to be clear here, allegedly operating as Flan Southside, an administrator in the leaked anti-ICE Signal dispatch chat. Screenshots show her in the group, coordinating with trackers, rapid response, and efforts to obstruct federal agents in Minneapolis. State official organizing agitators to block deportations and potentially dox ICE. This crosses into serious federal interference. It's something. Let me say this. If you were in a civil war, Rob, you would expect state officials to do something like this.
Of course, they're going to be, and it's her type of people that would be doing this stuff. So it's not unreasonable to think that this crazy woman is an admin in this chat. You know, I just want to remind everybody that, and we were looking for the video, but it didn't pop up. She is the same person who came out and said, when speaking about trans children, when our children tell us who they are, we believe them. And you're like, okay, a 4-year-old boy tells you that he's a girl, and we're supposed to just live that lie, okay? And we were talking off air, Paul. This is different than a 16 or 17-year-old daughter or son coming to you and saying, "Hey, I'm gay." Okay. Okay. Well, you're old enough to understand that at a certain point. You're not a legal adult. You're still my child. Well, I'm going to have this conversation with you. We're going to talk about that. But a 4-year-old who tells you that they're the other gender, any child who tells you they're the other gender, we're going to get medical help. We're not going to embrace it. And she's the dang lieutenant governor of an entire state with that mentality. So what would you do, Paul? What would you expect if say a husband and wife get a divorce because the wife, this has happened multiple times, the wife wants to trans their child.
Oh, this happened with Jeff Younger out of Texas.
Correct.
My good friend.
Yeah. And so he wants to trans, or she wants to trans the child, and has all of these reasons why, because she's this leftist and she's out here and she's probably in this Signal chat too. And the husband is just like, okay, look, he's just a little boy. He's 4 years old. Let's leave him be, and goes to court. Who do you think the attorney general is going to side with? The lieutenant attorney general. Well, when you're talking about this, let's say that there's some sort of criminal investigation, say we're going into this. Who is she going to side with? Her ideology rules her decision making.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Attorney General Keith Ellison would be the same way. She's a lieutenant governor.
Oh, lieutenant governor. Sorry,
but to your point is not lost. So since this has come out, though, we have people in Signal chat. So Cam Higbee and others are now in there. They've since deleted the Signal chat, so they've moved on, created other ones to try to subvert and further the insurgency.
Has she thrown her name into the hat for governor?
I don't believe so, but she has deleted her Facebook. As this came out last night, she wiped out her Facebook so that people would not be able to cross-reference who her friends are.
And then I saw that it was back up.
Oh, it is back up.
So it went back up after that. But I think that she probably went in and sanitized it.
Yeah, she sanitized it. So here, people in the group chat, why would we be in trouble? Relax. They're saying Signal's not secure. I worked in communications. Once they figure out where we were, it's only a matter of time. Flan has been exposed. We're all effed. I need to leave the state. Should I leave too? Maybe best to get out of the country. So we have these people now who, these subversives who believe they've been caught and that she was at the top. It's a big deal for the lieutenant governor of a state to be coordinating with great specificity actions that are getting ISIS fingers bit off, and also getting left-wing people killed as well. Okay, Mr. Pretty, he wouldn't be dead right now if it wasn't for this type of organization, where they're being emboldened because they think they have the state government support, because they do. So to them, it very much is like a modern-day civil war. I think the left has more of a war footing, a war mentality than the right does right now. And so I think we are in an undeclared civil war. And if you're going to reverse 70 years of immigration policy that has brought this country to its knees, there's no way to do it without some really disturbing things happening. Like, there's not going to be – it'd be one thing if the state of Minnesota would cooperate. That there'd be a way to do that. But the state of Minnesota is not cooperating. I don't care what Tim Walz says. So there's no way for this to happen. It's going to get ugly.
Those three pictures that you just had up there show you everything you need to know about this woman. Okay?
A chameleon.
Yes.
Be whoever I need to be.
I mean,
to get votes.
The one in the middle just cracks me up.
I know.
Because she has no idea they hate her guts. They hate her guts. They don't care anything about her. They only care what she does for them. There is zero chance that the Somalian community believes in the lieutenant governor or the governor. They don't. They're just like, they allow for the fraud to happen. And it's just absolutely mind-boggling to me. I don't care if you wear the rainbow colors. As a Christian, I've got some feelings about that when you talk about the rainbow. But I understand what you're doing. You're supporting gay people and all of that. It's your prerogative. I don't have a problem with it. But the protecting of trans kids, no. You're enabling mental health.
Child abuse.
Yeah. Mental health.
Straight up satanic child abuse.
Mental conditions such as gender dysphoria should not be embraced. They should be treated.
Okay, so I totally agree with you. Real quick, I do want to get to this just so you guys know. This is my official, so far, I haven't seen the body cam footage. I haven't seen anything else. We've seen the different angles. But this, to me, is the predominant theory. I think I think he was disarmed. I think he was armed. He clearly was armed. He was disarmed, but I think the gun went off, and then that's when the officers started shooting because they were in fear for their lives.
Yeah.
We now have a gun enthusiast. This was created 5 months ago, a guy by the name of Taylor Rhodes, who has been analyzing, I think this is a Sig Sauer gun, and this is allegedly the particular model that was taken off of Mr. Preddy, and apparently it has a problem with misfiring when the trigger is slightly engaged.
Input into the slide somewhere. Will it go off again? Will it release? Let's see.
Okay, so what he's got there is he has a screw. I don't know if you can see it, but there's literally a screw he's got pushing in on the trigger just slightly. So if the trigger is slightly engaged at all, and then you grab the slide on the top of the gun there, it can go off. He did this multiple times.
Yep. So somebody might say, okay, well, there was no screw in this gun, right? What he's trying to demonstrate is something as simple as a clothing snag that would not it would
Pull
not
the trigger.
pull do a full pull of the trigger, a clothing snag, or just brushing up against it with your. When he was grabbing this gun, if that is in fact what was happening in one of those videos, when he's grabbing this gun, if he's got his hand right there and just on top of it and barely touching that trigger,
they were all in a tussle.
Correct. And this is an extremely faulty gun, which apparently has over 100 lawsuits.
Can you imagine, like, if you're in business, if you're in any kind of business, this has got to be the worst. That's like the one thing as a gun manufacturer that you can't have happen is that your gun, like, goes off when it's not supposed to.
If I'm a gun broker, I'm not carrying that gun. I'm not, because you want to think about the liability when people are going to sue the manufacturer. Are they going to sue you too?
Yeah, I don't carry this gun because I care about your children, and I don't want you to accidentally kill them, or I don't want your kids to accidentally kill themselves.
You need a much safer gun, but he just shows like how simple that was. Paul, if we've got, I know we're running short on time, but if you could let this video play just a little bit more.
That's 3 in a row. Let me take the screw out. Number 4. Let's try it again. Let me show you. Fully functioning striker safety. All right. Should we do it with the magazine again? Let's put the magazine back in, and then we'll try the last one with the magazine out. Handy dandy trigger input tool. We are going to try to. Dang, sorry about that. I'm trying to get over
he's
a
putting
sinus thing and a cough.
replacing the
We're going to
screw.
try to simulate.
Watch this, folks. If
All
you're
right,
not a
here we
believer,
go.
watch this.
Again, we are roughly, as we saw on the tabletop, I'm guessing we're roughly 1 millimeter to less than 1 millimeter of engagement
That trigger is not pulled.
on that trigger. And let's see if we can get it to go off again.
First time.
And if that's the case, what's crazy is that could very well be, historically speaking, this random event, like some sort of Archduke Ferdinand moment, where it's like, well, then the gun accidentally went off because it was a bad manufactured gun, and yada, 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 the Second Civil War started.
Yeah, or the Mexican-American War that happened when I guess it was 2 soldiers got into a fight, and one cut the ear of the Mexican soldier cut the ear of the American soldier. And was it Andrew Jackson rushed back to Congress and said, American blood has been spilled on American soil, and got him to declare war. I may have the facts slightly off on that, but I think that's pretty accurate.
I've never even heard that. That just shows how ignorant I am of the Mexican-American War.
So it could just be the slight thing. Now, this guy obviously, lost his life, this Preddy guy. And everybody wants to talk about how he's just a sweetheart and he's this great person and all of this stuff. But the bottom line is he was heading to a protest to disrupt law enforcement, to impede them, and he was carrying a firearm. Now, does that mean he should receive a death penalty? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that He's not innocent. He wasn't like a little old lady walking down the street who got shot by a stray gunfire.
Yeah.
Okay? That's not what happened.
All right, a couple of opinions. One of them I think you highlighted was Matt Walsh's, but I'm going to go with R.N. McIntyre first. He writes, people seem to not understand the stakes, so let me help you out. We're already tens of millions of illegals, and Biden let in at least 8 million in 4 years. The left have openly declared their intention to replace the population and make elections irrelevant. Redistricting, demographic transform, judicial capture, the left will own every lever necessary to control democracy in perpetuity. Don't get me started on the way that they will do it to you personally once you're in power. They understand the stakes. They're willing to kill and die for this. If the GOP loses the midterms, the Dems will lock them in eternal impeachment proceedings and investigation. This is it. He says, this is the battle. This is the last chance to save the country before the only remaining options are extreme. Whatever violence you're seeing now is a Care Bears episode compared with what will follow if we don't win. These are the times that tri-men souls, the Sunshine Patriots, have gone away. Lock in. There are no other options. This goes hand in glove with what Matt Walsh wrote. The ICE situation is really complex. My take is more nuanced. Now, he's being sarcastic here.
Yes.
I want our immigration laws to be enforced, but I just want them to do it without using any force and without anyone ever getting hurt and without anything sad or upsetting happening ever. And if the people we're trying to deport don't want to be deported, or if liberal activists don't want us to deport them, then obviously in that case we shouldn't do it. But I'm totally conservative on the issue. Unless people get really mad at me, then never mind. Please don't yell, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what he's talking about there is something we alluded to earlier, is that some people just don't have the stomach for what is happening here. That doesn't make it wrong. Okay?
I would agree.
And so
I totally agree with that.
You know, in your previous the previous tweet there, Aaron, when he was talking about how this is, you know, the most important thing here, this is the time for us to save our country. You know, we hear that at every election cycle. I believed it in 2024 because I saw what was happening to this country, and you saw the groundswell of just lunacy. And what happened as soon as Trump was elected? You know, Facebook got their act together. Right, a lot of these leftist controlled entities, you know,
USAID got defunded. Mark Zuckerberg basically was like, "Please don't put me in jail, President
Correct.
Trump."
Yeah, right. And went up there and all talked to Trump and said, "Hey, we can work this out," kind of thing, because they knew that you know the grown-ups were back in charge. So I believe that he's correct about this stuff, that this is the time. But if you believe that the Democrats were going to destroy the country if they would have won, if Kamala would have won in 2024, what do you think they're going to do now when they get back into power?
It's terrible.
When they see how completely Trump did what he said he was going to do.
This is what they'll do.
Evangelical Christianity is a cancer. These are the worst of our country. These are the worst people in our country because they use their religion in two ways, as a weapon and as a shield. They weaponize it whenever they want to and say, we're on the moral high ground. You're a lesbian. You deserve to die. You're a lesbian. The cops shouldn't have revived you. Your parents are Mexicans and they brought you over here. Yeah, you should go to jail and eat worm food. And then when you call them out on it, oh my God, they're after the Christians. How dare they? How dare they? We're so oppressed. White Christians are so oppressed in this country. And they want it both ways because in the religion, that duplicity is taught. You can be morally duplicitous. You thrive in cognitive dissonance. And so this is just a massive, massive problem. And it should come as no surprise to anyone that of this cult that I'm talking about, white evangelicals, I think over 80% went and voted triple trumped.
That's what they have planned for us right there.
Yeah, and if you think that this is an isolated person here, Jennifer Welch, if you think she is the only one that believes this, you're insane.
You're right. Last thing, another R.N. McIntyre. Sure, I wanted tens of millions of illegals, many of which are violent gang members or sexual predators, to be deported, while violent leftist militia members shoot at and beat and run over ICE agents, but I just didn't expect anyone to get hurt. So we need to give up now. There are some people out there like this, so it just is what it is. Rob, it's always great to have you on the show, sir. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here as always.
We'll be back here tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, unless we're providentially hindered. We want to thank our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, T-Guard Bail Bonds, and Sherrod Chiropractic. And everybody out there, be safe. We'll see you soon.